I'm Ashley,
And I'm Jasmin.
and you're tuned into Ham Radio Stranger Things podcast.
It's a ham radio.
The Cadillac of ham radios.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of Ham Radio as Stranger Things podcast. We've got a great episode for you today, as usual. But first, we have a little housekeeping to take care of, and I'm going to turn it over to Jasmin to let you know where you can find us on social media and where you can listen to the podcast.
Thanks, Ashley. You can find us on Instagram at Ham Radio Media, all one word, on Twitter at HamThrough, on YouTube at Ham Radio Media, or using our handle HamRadio1983. We also have a Discord you can join, which is linked in the description of this episode. If you have a fan theory or question you want to share, you can email us at hamradiomedia@gmail.com. Ashley also has a fanfic on AO3 entitled Stranger Things College, which is also linked in the description. The podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and much more. If you like the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review. We have a lot of totally tubular stuff coming up, so be sure to follow us on social media to keep up with the podcast and all of our new content.
And welcome back to another episode of the Ham Radio Stranger Things podcast. Today we have yet another Stranger Things 5 filming behind the scenes episode for you guys today. But before we get into that, Jasmin's going to run a few things by you that we've recently discussed when as regards to doing the episodes for the behind the scenes content. So, Jasmin?
Yeah, for sure. So today we're going to be discussing all the new behind the scenes content we got for weeks 12 to 20 of filming. Can't believe we're here already. And we also want to provide a bit of an update. So up to now, we've been doing separate bonus episodes, every time we kind of got enough content, to make a whole episode. But as the behind the scenes drops are getting kind of wonky in terms of their schedule, in terms of when we're getting the content, when we're not, we've decided to incorporate future drops into our regularly scheduled episodes and only do full bonus episodes if there's something really big that we want to talk about. So going forward, we'll do our regular episodes. At the top of each episode, we'll talk about, the latest bonus content that we've gotten, and then we'll go into whatever topic we've picked for that day. And there could be times, as we go forward, as we get teasers and trailers, or there's, photos or videos that get dropped that we're like, oh my gosh, we're super excited about. We might do some extra bonus only episodes for that content, but generally speaking, going forward, we're going to incorporate it more into our regular episodes. So the coverage of the bonus content is not going away. We're just integrating it more. That way we can bring you guys content more consistently, because it's been hard to keep up with, the schedule of the bonus content because it's kind of wonky, plus our regular recorded stuff. And we also know you guys want updates on the script series, and so we are working on getting those episodes to you. So that's how we're going to be covering the bonus content going forward, just to kind of deal with just kind of the way things have been released and are being scheduled.
Yes, and I can definitely assure you guys that when the day comes when they even drop like a 30-second teaser video, like that episode will most definitely be a 3-hour long episode. So just letting you guys know that that right now. So we are going to move into the behind the scenes from weeks 12 to 20, beginning with Thursday, April the 4th. We got a sign with Demogorgon saying VFX department stop scanning in progress. Photo of some Avon bubble bath, a bottle of Chardonnay, and a wine glass. Label says alcohol removed from wine. One of the Duffer Brothers looking at camera scenes at the Wheeler house. Confirmation that the Bro Zone is where the Duffer Brothers work on set. A photo of a Demogorgon head on a stick. Video of lights flashing in the rainbow room. The prop blocks, the wooden prop blocks that they use have little red rhinos stamped on them. I don't really know what that's about. Could just be the brand name. I'm not really totally sure.
Me neither.
Um,
I just kind of clocked it in one of the pictures where they have prop blocks, like the wooden prop blocks. And I've seen those before, but I noticed that these ones have little red rhinos stamped on them. They don't appear to be a logo, they're just little red rhino stamps. So I don't know what that's about. I just thought it was like an interesting detail.
yeah, it is interesting, and of course the conspiracy theorists all came out and has to be important, and like it could literally just be a brand logo of the company that makes these prop blocks. Um, and then on Tuesday, April the 9th, Millie Bobby Brown posted a selfie to her personal Instagram account in costume as 11 in the same outfit as she was in the hangout room or break room video that she posted also on her. It wasn't her personal account, it was her Florence by Mills account. Um, anyway, she appears to be filming in the Upside Down at night, which um, I'm really looking forward to that. We're probably talk more about this um, further down later on in this episode, but I'm really excited about these vibes of 11 um, in the Upside Down this season. But anyway, so on Friday, April 12th, Ross Duffer posted behind the scenes pics from the Upside Down offices in Atlanta or California. That has not yet been confirmed. I think it's California. Jasmin thinks Atlanta, but either way, they're really cool looking offices. Showing the writers hard at work on episode 8, aka the series finale with the captions weeks 11 through 14. We got in those that same photo dump a photo of a whiteboard with the title episode 8 with the rest of it blurred out, obviously. One of the writers in a cool plant room, courtyard, working on her laptop. And then we got Matt Duffer shooting his brother a bird while Ross was working on writing on a laptop. And then Ross was sitting in a chair, and then writer Paul Dichter was also seen writing on a laptop. And then we had a bunch of the writers taking a break to play Jurassic Park pinball on a old timey looking pinball machine. Um, so it's the big question is like, who's the pinball fanatic, Matt or Ross? I feel like probably both of them are. Um, I don't think that's to me. It seems like they probably both play pinball, which I like pinball. Pinball is awesome.
So on Wednesday, April 17th, we got a photo of a crew member outside the room from the rubber chicken video in custom Stranger Things 4 t-shirt and sweatpants. And I got a question on Tumblr from Friends Don't Lie, okay, asking why the crew member was wearing season 4 merch. Some people thought this was from season 4 and not from season 5. So I wanted to address this because there was some confusion. So this picture is from the filming of season 5. Except from what I can tell, the crew is, and cast I would assume as well, is typically gifted show merch at the end of each season, and so they tend to wear it the next season. The merch might be a wrap gift they get at the end of filming, as it's pretty common with larger shows. People who work on them are often gifted custom shoes or clothing. They're often given gifts like, there'll be plants or food or something like that to kind of celebrate and say thank you at the end of the season. Another example of this is the show Grey's Anatomy. The crew that works on that show is often gifted, they'll custom Converse or something like that at the end of every season. So when you see pictures of crew members wearing stuff like that, it's because they're normally gifted as a wrap gift. And so when they go to work for the next season, they obviously wear the merch, right? So this is a very common thing for larger shows. Network shows specifically do this a lot. And now that streaming shows have gotten bigger, this is something that we're seeing them doing. So just to clear up like any confusion there, that's why they're wearing the merch, and that's where it comes from. It's not it's not an Easter egg or anything. It's just this is a very common thing that that bigger shows will do as like a thank you to the crew. because it's custom stuff that you really like. It's not available for purchase. It's just thank you so much for making the show great. Here's some custom stuff. And so also in this photo drop, we got a transportation map of Hawkins from 1985 on top of a Ziploc bag labeled Hero, a water bottle, and some more Ziploc bags. There's a photo of the inside of a warehouse showing a large selection of bikes, including ones that look like they might belong to Holly or Erica, 3 VHS tapes from Family Video on top of a television set, and a photo of Mike Wheeler from season 1 on top of some children's record sleeves, the kind that hold vinyl records. And then on April 23rd, we got a video entitled Vine Crossing, showing a cart with vines from the upside down being wheeled down a road with trees on either side. And then on Friday, April 26th, we got a video of hairstylist Bryn Berg and Dina Gibson goofing around in the hair and makeup trailer.
And then on Monday, April 29th, there was a video of an unknown crew member bringing Sadie Sink her coffee on set. She's shown in the makeup trailer getting her makeup done in costume as Max in a hospital gown and braids. It's clearly someone's birthday or they're celebrating something as the makeup desk she's sitting at. It's covered in balloons and streamers. And I believe, Jasmin, that this was like Sadie Sink's like actual birthday, I think. It was pretty recent. I have to look that up because I'm almost confident that this was actually for Sadie's birthday. But I'll definitely look that up, um, and we'll let you know because I don't want to us to be,
Okay, I just
oh, no,
Googled
it
it. It
wasn't.
depends when this
Okay.
was filmed because her birthday is April 16th, 2002. So
Okay, so
this was
this may
given to
have,
us on the 29th, but it might have been filmed earlier.
yeah, and
So
see
we don't
that's
know.
and see, just brief aside, you bring up a kind of a good and important point there, Jasmin. Is that um, we don't really know necessarily when all of these behind the scenes stuff was actually, you know, taken and all that. It's just this is all the dates of when it was posted. So some of the stuff could have already, been done weeks before this. It's just this is when it was actually posted. So we don't really actually know time wise when all this was actually taken. Um, so it absolutely could have been like on her day of her actual birthday. They just didn't post it until like 2 weeks later. So um, then on Sunday, May the 12th, they shared a picture of the folding actress chair for Joyce Byers in honor of Mother's Day. Um, and then there was a video of the crew unboxing a giant 5 foot tall squishmallow of Eddie Munson, and they were putting it in the VFX office. Then Friday, May 17th is when we got probably our largest photo dump, content dump, and like at that point, um, over a month. There was a photo of Jonathan and Nancy that looked like a still, a production still or whatever of Jonathan and Nancy in the back of Steve's car looking scared or something behind them. The DBs showing Charlie Heaton, Natalia Dyer, and Joe Keery footage of what they just filmed. Um, and they were in costume. So they're obviously watching like playback. Maya Hawke jumping backwards into a hay bale at a barn. One of the DBs with Charlie behind the scenes. A previous image of Jonathan in a car that looks very similar to the previous we saw of the scene where Dustin, Nancy, and Jonathan are in a car falling through a field into the upside down. Photo of a van for what appears to be a local radio station near some trees. A G.I. Joe lunchbox next to someone wearing crew socks and running shoes, a blanket with Transformers on it, thrown over something, a video of another marble being dropped into the marble bowl, photos of the DVs with producer Hillary Levitt sitting on what looks like a piece of the tunnel system from season 2, looking at, I guess, a laptop or an iPad or whatever, probably going over a scene, or maybe they were about to take a shoot a scene. One of the DBs with his arms around the giant Eddie Squishmallow at their headquarters or VFS office. Then another photo of Hillary Levitt on the farm. Excuse me, on the phone on a farm with the barn and silos behind her. I assume the same barn they've been filming at. And then uh, Ross Duffer shooting yet another bird at a mysterious photo taker in front of, I guess, crew members' trailers.
All right. And then on Tuesday, May 21st, we had a photo of the actors' chairs for Robin Buckley and Will Byers in front of a table where a game of bananagrams is in progress. On May 23rd, we got 3 photos of cars covered in vines and cobwebs in the upside down. There is a Cadillac, a tow truck, and what could either be a monster truck or possibly a dune buggy, with what could be a hearse or a 70s style ambulance in the background. This car kind of reminds me of Ecto 1 from Ghostbusters. So very curious to see, where that's from. And then on May 24th, we got photos and videos of the crew celebrating 100 days of filming for ST5. We saw the crew members dressed as 100-year-olds, and they were treated to free ice cream and games to celebrate. And then our last drop of photos was from Wednesday, May 29th. We got 5 photos of 80s memorabilia in what appears to be someone or someone's bedroom. And in here, the items include a Macintosh SE computer, various board games, a Chicago Cubs poster, children's toys, and stuffed animals. The computer looks like it could belong to Mike or Lucas, but the toys look like they might belong to Holly or Erica. There's a bit of a mishmash here. The computer looks like something a teenager would have, but the toys look like something a younger child would own. People have also speculated this room could belong to Will's new love interest. Amanda at Starcourt Study Hall had a good theory about that. And the Macintosh SE computer that we see in these photos was sold by Apple Computers from March 1987 to October 1990, which means we could be jumping ahead into the future here. So I'd say that these photos are probably the most puzzling of the ones we got, as they seem to be a bit incongruent, and people are speculating on who the room belongs to, if it's even part of the same set. What this could be referring to. Are we jumping in time here? So lots of questions coming out of these photos. Ashley, is there something this is so much content. Is there something out of this drop that like really stood out to you as interesting or intriguing?
You mean like for the entire time span of weeks 12 to 20 or the most recent?
I was saying the whole time span. What stood out to you?
Okay, gotcha. Because it's really weird, like, during this block of behind the scenes content, because I've been so busy, lately with, throughout these weeks, with Oak Bridge stuff, and then some of the other stuff with ham radio and my day job that I get paid for. That it's just all kind of going by in such a blur. I really, um, other than like the first patch, like from the first couple of weeks of this block, I don't really remember much of it, to be honest with you, because I don't really think I even, you know, paid attention to it at all on Instagram and all that. But I'd probably say the ones that really stood out to me the most in terms of like something that, um, you know, I'm really looking forward to next season, um, or talking points, I guess you say, were a lot of the stuff from April the 4th. Like, um, I think the biggest one being them obviously filming something in the Rainbow Room on, when the massacre at Hawkins Lab occurred. Like, we're going to get a flashback of that. And I would assume from Henry's perspective. And that's something for me that is so it's so comforting in a way, because in season 4 as it relates to the flashbacks in the lab in 1979, we only saw things from Eleven's point of view and Brenner's, but we've yet to see anything really from Henry's. So I really am hoping that's what this indicates. I don't really see any other reason that they would, purposely go back to the massacre in the Rainbow Room and look to be filming like new scenes for it for a flashback if that weren't the case, Um, and then another thing of them, you know, already beginning VFX, during that time, I'm thinking like right now that it's June the 1st that we are recording this, and I just think by now, because I know they've been continuing to do VFX throughout this period. I personally do expect um, at least a 10-second teaser of season 5, like hopefully to done. I personally don't see any reason that we couldn't be getting that. Um, but I mean, I don't know everything that goes into VFX, but I mean, I would at least like to believe that they have enough filmed and have done enough VFX to at least warrant, a 10-second teaser. Because I remember in season 4, the promos, we had already gotten 2-minute long plus teaser trailers for season 4 before we got that little like 10 to 15-second run through of season 4. And that was during COVID. And so, I mean, I don't know. I feel like now, like, they definitely could do that for us. Um, and for me, like, I'm just right now, I've gotten so antsy that I'm like, these pictures, all this is great. It's cool to see all that goes into the show, but I'm at a point now where I'm getting antsy. I'm like, I really would love some actual footage, an actual teaser from the season at this point. um, so yeah, um, that's one kind of thing that um, really stood out to me in like the first um, in terms of the first couple weeks, and then obviously, like I mentioned earlier, um, the picture that Millie posted of 11 being what appears to be the upside down. And my question is, like, is this the upside down, as it were, or is this the one that's merging into Hawkins? But really, we haven't seen her in the upside down since season 2, and that was only the writers were, formulating the story as we know it today, because they did not have any of this planned when they were writing season 1. And so that was kind of their unique way of saying, oh, she's not dead. She just, went back into the upside down, or not back into, but, after she
She
disintegrated
was
that
sent there,
Demogorgon.
yeah.
Yeah,
She was
yeah,
sent there, yeah.
exactly. And literally the only thing she did in the upside down was get out. And that was just kind of their way of filling in that gap. So I don't really necessarily consider that her venturing into the upside down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what she was down there very briefly.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why, like, some people have, said like Eleven's the only character that's never been to the upside down, and that's not true, because she was technically in the upside down during that time. But um, I've noticed, um, and I've looked into this, I've researched this, but actually in terms of the main characters, Jonathan is actually the only one that has never been in the upside down. Isn't that
huh,
crazy?
that is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
so, considering he's supposed to be a main character, like the
I
fact
know
that
that.
he's never been down there is kind of. Do you think they know that? Like, do you think that was a
I
intentional
feel like,
choice or?
well, I feel like with, this crop of behind the scenes and that previs of, Jonathan with Nancy, Steve, and Dustin down there, I feel like probably they do because I'm like, if they didn't realize that, why would they, do that? I don't know.
No, I mean more like, do you think that was intentional, or do you think they got to this point and realized, oh crap, he's never been down there? Do you know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know.
Like,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I honestly, I really don't know. I mean, I feel like it was just something they did not realize. I don't
yeah,
think it was
yeah,
intentional.
mm,
They probably just, probably never um really crossed their minds, I would
yeah.
say.
That's Jonathan's character in a nutshell, though. I feel like that's always the problem with his character. It's like stuff happens that like you. It's like oh, like it hadn't crossed their minds. Like I feel like I, this sounds mean, but it sometimes feels like his character is or what they're doing with him is an afterthought. Like season one, he had a core purpose there. No, it just kind of feels like since then it's like, did they realize that? Or oh, maybe they realized that later he'd never been down there. Maybe we should do something about that. Like it just
I
it feels like
know.
yeah, it kind of feels that way to me too.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I also thought that the stuff from April 4th was interesting. I have a lot to say about behind the scenes, but this is my jam, so I have a lot to say. Um, I was also excited to see that they were doing the VFX, and I also hope too that we're gonna get a teaser, we're gonna get a trailer. And I was just checking in the last they usually do to Tadum in like September, but then they started doing it last year was in June, so but they haven't announced it yet for this year, I don't think. So I'm guessing it's probably going to be some point this summer. I mean, I feel like they were going to do June, they would have announced it already. So probably maybe July or August. I don't think they'll wait till September though, because that
Yeah,
feels like, especially since they've
yeah,
been teasing stuff about Wednesday and they've got Bridgerton. Like, it feels like it'd be weird for them to wait till that stuff was over to do it. Like, it feels weird for them to wait. And since Stranger Things Day is November, I'm guessing probably like mid to late summer is when they'd be doing the event. Um, that's kind of what I'm guessing. But yeah, it'd definitely be cool to see a trailer. And there's like little details in these photos that I'm interested to see if this is just something for the actors or if this is actually part of the plot. For example, like when I was looking more closely, like I noticed that in the prop photo of like the bubble bath and the Chardonnay bottle and the wine glass, the label on the bottle of Chardonnay says alcohol removed wine. And so I was curious about that. I was like, is that something like for the actors? You know what I mean? Like they get something that tastes like Chardonnay, so it's more authentic when they film the scene, but they're not actually getting drunk. Or is this part of the plot? Is this like, do we think that, I'm assuming this stuff belongs to Karen because that's really the only character I think that makes sense. Plus, we got that previous picture of the bathroom with the shoes. And since we saw, that taking, nice bubble baths is something that, Karen enjoys doing in season three, I'm assuming the stuff belongs to her. And so my question was, you know, does she not drink? Like, is it alcohol removed wine? Like, is this part of her character? Or is this something for the actors and it would be hidden? Like in the scene, that part of the bottle would be hidden? So that's one of the questions that I
yeah,
have.
yeah, and I think we follow Cara Buono, who plays
Mm-hmm.
as Karen. We follow her on our ham radio account, and she's she'll post like little things, like when she's in Atlanta, going to work today, like her drive and stuff, to work, and from what I can tell, like she has filmed a lot for this
Mm-hmm.
season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember her doing that in season four, which because she obviously was not in there that much, but
Yeah.
she has filmed quite a lot.
She
So
has.
I'm excited to see more Karen, but at the same time I'm kind of anxious to see her role this season
Yeah.
because if she's filming more, that means that Karen, is going to be doing more, having more screen time. So is that like she getting more involved with the main plot?
I feel like she has to be. Like, I feel like I was kind of picturing that maybe some of the, we always joke about the parents finding out or, who's winding up with who and that kind of thing. I was originally expecting that stuff was going to happen by like episode 2, but now I'm feeling episode 1, quite frankly. Because just looking at how much people have been filming, I'm like, well, if Karen's a part of the plot, she's part of the main cast, she has to find out about the action pretty early on. Like, she has to be looped in pretty early on. You know what I mean? To make that possible. And I feel like they got to kind of set up who's winding up with who and what we're doing there pretty quickly. Like I feel like it's got to be like episode 1. It looks like that's pretty heavy hitting. Like it's going to cover a lot of ground in order to set up the rest of the season. Because you're right. Like for her to be that involved, like she has to find out what's going on pretty early on in the season. Like we're talking episode 1, maybe 2. And
Yeah, and oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, um, my biggest question to that is like, how does how does she get involved in it?
Yeah.
Does she like, you know, does she slip up on a conversation that Mike and Nancy are having, or how is Karen gonna get you know involved? I mean, is something gonna happen? I mean,
I think it could be more
um,
simple than that because in the last shot we see her looking at the ash, and Holly's like, "It's snowing," and you see Karen looking at it, going, "What the hell is that?" So
yeah, like she's like, yeah, that's messed up.
yeah, well, and I think coming out of season 4, something that I remember reviewers commenting on this when they had an early look at episode 1 is that like the camera really focuses on Karen in contrast to the other parents. And so a lot of people who early reviewed season 4 had said, oh, that they thought Karen was going to find out that she was going to play a bigger role. That, there's also that about people said that about Vicky as well. So my kind of impression here is that like Karen was supposed to find out sooner. She was supposed to take a bigger role in season 4. Likewise, we were probably supposed to see more of Robin and Vicky's relationship. And I think they ran out of time. I don't think they budgeted their time well in this season. And I think they ran out of time because there's a lot of characters, even Miss Kelly, like where the camera really focuses on them, or we spend a lot of time with them. And you got to volume 2, and we were like, what? Like there was no follow up there. Like they did a lot of focusing, a lot of setup. So my kind of take on it is Karen was supposed to find out in season 4. She's supposed to find out earlier. She's supposed to be more involved, and they ran out of time, and so they pushed it to season 5. So it could be something as simple as she looks at the ash, she realizes something is up, and she sees that, like, for example, she sees that Steve and Dustin and Robin and Vicky are leaving, well, she's at the home, but do you know what I mean? Like she's like, okay, something is up,
Hmm.
and she goes to where Mike and Nancy are because she knows Mike and Nancy are at the cabin, right? We saw them all talk at the home. And considering that Nancy was previously missing, as far as Karen knew, I don't think Nancy just went off and didn't tell Karen where she was going.
Yeah,
So it could be something as simple as, she gets Ted to look after Holly and she drives out there to be like, what is going on? Like, this is not good. At which point everyone else convenes to the cabin and she realizes Hopper is actually alive. And at which point Karen's like, okay, what the hell? And they have to explain to her what's going on because you can't that's not something you can explain away. There's ash
yeah,
falling from the sky, things are on fire, this guy's not dead. Like, that's not something you just like explain away. She's not stupid. So I think it could be something as simple as she finally is like, okay, this is I can't ignore this. She goes to kind of, even just check on Nancy and Mike and, kind of comes face to face with it. And that's how she finds out. And from there, they kind of incorporate her into the team just because they have to. Like, I bet Mike and Nancy won't be thrilled about that, but at that point, there's nothing else to do. Like, she knows, and she's not. I mean, Karen loves her children. She's not just going to turn around and be like, "All right, well, thank you for the update. I'm going to go home now." Like, that's I don't see them doing that, and they've clearly been filming a lot at the Wheeler house, like that, like the Wheeler house, the junkyard, and the farm seem to be sets that they're filming at a lot. That and the Upside Down, like there seems to be like a lot there. Um, so I think that's also part of it. Like if they're bringing Karen into it, then that makes sense as one of their kind of command posts, so to speak, like one of their kind of meetup places outside of the cabin. Um, if Karen's in the know, then that would make sense, right? They don't have to hide from Karen. They just got to make sure that like Holly's got some headphones on, Ted's asleep on the couch. They can talk without people overhearing them. So that's kind of what I lean towards. I don't know if it's going to be a big deal. If it's just going to be more of just the circumstance they find themselves in, you know?
Yeah. Um, and another um big behind the scenes thing that stood out to me was I mean this is just one part of it, but seeing it continuously, which this I actually don't really consider to be like a spoiler. Um, with the even from the paparazzi, like all the stuff of the vines of the upside down, because like that, like yeah, we know that um the upside down is going to be big in season 5. And we know it's going to be merging into Hawkins, so I don't really consider that to be like a spoiler or anything like that. But I mean, just seeing all the vines and stuff, which I think they're going to be like including special effects and CGI to make it look a lot worse as well. Um, but it just again like makes me wonder, like, at the upside down we're going to see this season, um the natural upside down, or the one that is now merging into Hawkins. Like, I'm really interested to see what Hawkins is going to look like as the upside down is now merging into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. What of what we're seeing is the upside down, and what of this is that taking over Hawkins. I think certain scenes, like when they're like walking in the woods, or you see cars covered in vines, I think that is the upside down as we know it. But other things where you see them moving this stuff around, I'm like, well, that could be the upside down, but it could also be Hawkins. It could be both. Um, so I'm also interested to see what that looks like, or what Hawkins looks like this season. I'm also really interested to see what they're filming at night, because they appear to be doing like a lot of night shoots.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
that too.
really, yeah, I'm really interested to see what they're filming at night. I'm really excited for that kind of aesthetic too. It's kind of the like undercover of darkness type vibe, which I'm really excited for. Um,
Yeah, and this is going to be a very hot take, but it gives me a lot of season 3 vibes, Jasmine. You know how much I
mhm,
love season 3, and that
yeah,
was that was they. There's a lot of night scenes
there
in
are.
that season.
So just to kind of wrap up with some final thoughts here, I was surprised that Matt and Ross keep flipping each other off so much in these photos. I was not
Yeah,
expecting
yeah,
that many birds. Um, it kind of gives me the vibe of like when you're like annoyed with like a sibling or a family member, like somebody keeps bucking you and you just like flip them off, like when you're getting annoyed with them. Um, it kind of gives me the vibe of like we got to take pictures for this thing. We committed to it, and they're like, "F off."
like I'm busy.
I'm busy. F off. Like the one picture from the 12th. Not I think it's 12. It's one of the later ones. Oh, where was this picture? Yeah. Okay. It's a Frost, and they're outside some trailers, and like they don't even look like actor trailers. They more look like not crew trailers, but just kind of like I don't know, like they might be holding equipment or something.
Hmm.
Like he's just passing through, and he just looks like really tired and annoyed. And it kind of gave the vibe of like, I know we have to take pictures for this thing, but I don't want to take a picture right now. I'm annoyed. Like
Yeah,
go away. But we committed to doing this, and I kind of feel like they do this a lot, and I think this is because I mean, this show exploded in a way that most. I mean, this is like the second project that Deborah has ever worked on. This is not normal for things to explode this way. They don't have those years of experience. What I'm trying to say is, I think they often write themselves into a corner without meaning to.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the way they get themselves out of that stuff is super creative and interesting, like the whole friendship between Steve and Dustin, a lot of Robin and Steve storyline, stuff like that stuff I picked up again with season 4 like can be really interesting. But I think this is a case where like they committed at some point they committed to doing these behind the scenes pictures. They kept promising a table read video, and then
Mm-hmm.
instead they decided to go with the behind the scenes pictures for whatever reason. Apparently they have the video, so I don't know if they're just waiting to drop that later. Whatever reason they committed to this. But now they've hit a point the last few weeks, at least from what I can tell, that people are tired, they're annoyed, like they don't want to take a picture right now. They're filming stuff they can't show us, so they're like videotaping the crew doing random shit. Uh, like they committed to this, and people are expecting it, but now they're at a point where they didn't think about the fact that they'd get to a point where they couldn't photograph anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or like if that actor is not feeling it, they can't force them to take the picture. Like you have to have their permission to use it. So if they're not feeling it or they say, I don't want that picture used, you can't just put it out there. Like that violates their contract. So I think they've hit a point where they're just flipping each other off on camera because they're just like, I know you need a picture, but I want to take a picture right now. Go away. So like that's the vibe a lot of this stuff is starting to give me.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of like us, Jasmine. Like the
Yeah,
behind the scenes,
yeah.
like we're gonna make bonus recordings episodes of the behind the scenes content as much as we can, and like it's 6 months later, and we're like, well, we're
Yeah.
gonna be incorporating those into other episodes
Yeah.
because
Because
uh, well,
it's like
not
it's
that
fatigue though. It's like
yeah,
it's
well,
fatigue.
exactly, and it's not all our fault that they don't post regularly either. And
Right.
even like, which
Like,
I'm kind of glad they don't because, I
yeah.
mean, that's part of the reason that I was kind of getting burned out with some of it, as we
Yeah.
talked about in privately. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean that literally is kind of like us, Jasmine. It's
Yeah, no, I think we're all feeling that. I think, again, I think they've kind of written themselves and all of us into a corner here where they committed to something and then it's like, because they've never done this, right? They didn't do this for the other seasons. They just dropped a few videos and went on their way and did some promo. And I think they're regretting the choice that they made, I think, because, or like
yeah,
season,
because
yeah,
I didn't think they would. I thought
no,
that the day one of Joe and Maya.
yeah,
That was going to be it until like maybe around now, the
yeah.
summertime. Things pick up and they're like
Mm-hmm.
going to be like, oh, this is how it started, this is how it's going, type of thing.
Or dump
Um,
it later. Like I could
did
see
not
them
expect
dumping it.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did
Or
not
dump it in bigger
expect.
chunks.
Yeah. Did not expect. A consistent
Yeah.
roll through of behind the scenes. And I think too that's why I'm part of the reason why I'm getting antsy because
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
I need actual footage.
The content, yeah.
Even yeah, like even if it's a production still,
Mm-hmm.
um like I need something that shows like from actual on from the screen. Like I need
Yeah.
it's great that you're showcasing, especially with the crew. It's great that they're doing that, but I mean, I hate to like I don't want to sound rude when I say this, but I mean, I think the general sentiment now is like, yeah, I mean, this is cool, but like you know, who cares? I mean, it's sad to say that, but um, like I want to see a scene. Like I want, or at least something from season 5 that's not behind the scenes that was taken with an iPhone. I'm ready to see some actual uh, footage from this season, and I feel like a lot of people are, and I think that once that happens, at least for a little while, I think you know the fan base will have been fed and um
We'll
you
probably
know
pull back a little bit on the behind the
yeah
scenes pictures. Yeah. Yeah. I could see that too. And I don't know, I think I wonder if part of it this occurred to me today is again, like I joined the fandom during COVID, so season 1 through 3 to come out. We only had I think we had the first trailer for season 4, and that was it. But I've obviously seen some of the old footage and stuff, and I think I don't know, but I imagine what they were probably originally hoping to do is how I think it was when season 3 was coming out, they did that like worldwide tour, and all the actors, like the main cast, like went around the world and they did all the
Yeah,
premieres.
yeah, they
I am,
did.
yeah, I imagine what they were probably planning to do before COVID, before the strikes, was what I imagine the original plan probably was, since that was successful for them, was okay. They released season 3, they did all the world tour promo, and then they went back into production originally. I think beginning of 2020. That was supposed to have come out in like 2021 or 2022. They probably had booked or planned a world tour of promo. They were probably going to do the same thing, but probably for seasons 4 and 5, or at the very least for season 5. And then because of COVID, because of the strikes, like that just wasn't possible for season 4. They did like the TikTok premiere, or that was streamed. That was cool, but that was all they could do. And I imagine they probably originally did have that plan for season 5, but unfortunately, because of COVID and then because of the strikes, the actors are booked. They cannot take them on a world tour because they're struggling to, like, not struggling, but just like they're double booked right now. Because like this show was supposed to be done 4 years ago. That they all the people booked other things. So like they can't take them on a world tour and they can't do what they'd probably planned. And so my thought is, I wonder if they're doing this, if they committed to this promo and they're like trying to save the video of the script, of the first script reading, if they're table read, if they're trying to kind of give us bonus content now, give us the pictures, give us the videos, save that stuff for kind of late summer, fall. I wonder if they're doing that in lieu of this world tour and all this promo they had planned for 5, because they can't do it with all the actors, because they're double booked. Like they will not have time to go on a world tour. They're already double booked. I wonder if that's what they're doing.
Yeah. Or it's just, maybe they just, literally just don't have time, or they're like, hey, we really need to prioritize like the actual filming and
Yeah.
post production, because Brendan and I were actually talking about this a little bit the other day, and he was saying how with season 4, with volume 2, they were, as we all know, like literally working up to the seconds before it released on July the 1st of 2022. um but the entire month, between both volumes. And there were still some things that were not completely, finished editing, and he was like, they've even come out and said, like, even the months after um um volume 2 was released, they were still editing stuff and just, posting like that, complete editing, and that the Duffer Brothers kept continuing to change things and add things, and to the point where Netflix had to tell them to quit. um
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was so much, and because everything, with COVID and everything like that, was, it kind of threw them off. And it was such a large season and all that, and we had, so much CGI and special effects in season 4. And Brendan was kind of talking about how, he's in the mindset of, he thinks that um they are multitasking this time around. I
Yeah.
mean, they already like do that anyway, but he thinks that, they are, filming and then, like, editing and stuff as they go along, so that
Probably.
they're not have to do that in season 5, like they did um with season 4. Which I think is, if they are doing that, it's very understandable. And he
I mean,
said
I
they're probably
imagine
just,
like they probably had
yeah,
planned to do that for season 4, but probably couldn't. That's kind of the vibe I get. Like,
yeah. Well, we, like, the Duffer Brothers have said, like, their plan was to film 4 and 5 back to back, but they weren't able to do that. Which, I don't know. I mean, I know they already had season 5 outlined, but personally, I think that when they went into the writers' room to work on season five, things changed. I mean, then it's just it's just what happens when you write, especially especially what I'm learning, with Oak Bridge is like even though you have your outline and that's your guideline, you're gonna change things, you know, as you go through the writers' room, especially when you're working with other writers. It's gonna happen. Um,
Yeah, and
but
I'm honestly kind of glad that they didn't do. I understand why. Like I know they said that season five is going to dovetail onto season four a way that the other seasons didn't. But I think we haven't seen season five yet, obviously. But I think obviously this much of a break, is not good. It happened for a reason. But I don't know. I think just because the issue season four had. I mean, again, we don't know. Like if they've been able to film season four and five, back to back, when they planned to, I think that would have been fine. But because of the issue season four ran into, I think I'm kind of glad they weren't able to do season five right after. Because I think that would have been a worse show. I think a lot of the issues would have carried over into season five. Whereas now that they had a break and then they're able to come back and do their normal process, I think that's going to be a much better season and a much stronger season because while there are going
yeah,
to be adjustments, the actors don't look the way they did 4 years ago. um, but like there's obviously got to be more time dose, I think, to account for that. Um, I think that this is going to be a better season, truly, because there were issues that happened in season four, as we've talked about, that were kind of, I think, a victim of circumstance of COVID, of the fact they couldn't do the normal process, of the fact that it was a supersized season. I think they bit off more than they could chew and then we're panicking and scrambling, and that obviously is not a process that works for them. Um, the way their normal process does. Um, and I think now that they have a chance to write and to do their normal process and do the VFX at the same time, it kind of sounds to me like with the pictures, like you were saying when you're talking to Brendan, that like they're filming stuff and then they're handing it off to VFX. Do you know what I mean? Like they're doing both.
yeah, and to me, as we've seen, like as the show has gone on, that I mean, really the show really is at its best when they have time to write it and film it and in post production and stuff. Like I remember, I think, well, I don't remember this because I didn't start really actually watching the show until you know like season three was the first time I ever watched the show live, on the actual release date. But I think to me that's kind of why season two is in my opinion the weaker of the seasons because season one, like I took the Duffer Brothers master class and they worked on season one for like up to that point like 10 years almost, um just developing it. And at that point it was still Montauk, not Stranger Things. And they did not have any plans to continue the show. They were supposed to be an anthology series, but during the filming of season one, Netflix was like, "Hey, you think you can get us, season two of this, going?" And they're like, "Yeah, we can do that." And so they had to, um, think quick, I guess you'd say, and think on their feet and just come up with something. And you know, they only had a few months, the writing and then filming. Season two was like, immediately after season one, and season two, I mean, has good qualities about it certainly. But I just think it's probably the weaker written of the seasons comparatively because you can definitely tell that they did not put as much time into it as they did for season one. And then um season three came out like a year and a half after season one, and they had a little bit more time to do it. And obviously season four and season five, which those were obviously delayed by things that they could not control. But I still think still would have been a little bit time between those two seasons, regardless. And even though it's frustrating as a fan to have to wait so long between seasons, um, I do think it's a much better show when they have taken their time on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's that sweet spot because I agree with you. Like I read once that when they were interviewed and I can't remember, one of the Duffer Brothers said that they hadn't, when season 2 came out, they were still living in the crappy apartment they'd had prior to season 1 because they hadn't had time to move. They physically had not had enough time to move out of their crap apartment into a nicer place. Like that's how busy they were. So yeah, I totally believe that. And I think, season 3 had its issues, but I think there's kind of that sweet spot where having enough time and having too much time. Because season 4 was definitely a case of too much time, where, you know what I mean? Those scripts give the vibe, like those episodes give the vibe of, I had too much time on my hands stuck in my house during COVID. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the
Yeah.
kind of plot that gives you, let's make Jonathan a stoner. Like, do you know what I mean? That's not a plot you come up with if you're not stuck in your house going nuts. Like, do you know what
Yeah,
I mean? That's
yeah.
the vibe it gives me. So I think there's kind of that sweet spot. And I think something gives me confidence for season 5 is, they obviously started working on it post season 4. But because the strikes happened, they were not working on, the crew was working, but the actors, the scriptwriters were not working during that time period in solidarity. So that actually makes me feel a little bit better because, coming back to season 5, they, not only came back united and excited to work and you'll be able to write as they go, do that process. We know they had a few scripts ready before filming started, writing the rest as they go, as is the normal process. Excited and ready to go. Um, but also they came back to a stronger working environment because of everything the unions won. Like they had additional supports going to season 5 that they didn't have before, and all the resources in the world, are great. But I think something I've seen in my own working life is having union or having people to say like, hey, these are things you need to be aware of, makes for so much of a stronger production, like so much of a stronger environment, because it's like, oh yeah, that hadn't even occurred to me as a white man that you might need that. So let's get that going. Like that's so much of a stronger, better environment. Not to say the environment was bad. It seems to be a positive environment for everyone that works on the show. But I think going to season 5, they have just such a stronger foundation. Like I feel like season 4 had a very shaky foundation, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the only one that, truly, well, the only two that you could tell, like, really, truly had a firm foundation that, you know, they thought of and they stuck with it throughout was the Hawkins plot and the 11 flashback plot with, you know,
Yeah.
the massacre. Those were the most consistent to me, in my opinion. I mean, I know, like, with the Russian plot, obviously, with the way that season 3 ended, they knew that they were going to do that. But they even said themselves that they changed some things with it. Like, I think one originally had Hopper meeting up with Alexi's
Murray was
dad.
supposed to meet up with him. Murray was supposed to team up with Alexi's
Yeah,
dad.
yeah,
And
and that did not happen.
no, and there was supposed to be something too. Remember, they just kind of, oh, there was something else that they were supposed to pick up on. And in the end, they decided to go with, let's have Tammy Thompson sing at the assembly and move on because so much time had passed. There was something else too. I remember from season 3 they were supposed to pick up, and they didn't. But yeah, that's the thing. You know, that's the thing about it. Like, and I just see how that impacts season 5 because I'm sure they've had to do the same thing. There's probably things threads they were gonna pick up, or it's like at this point it's been way too long. People are not gonna remember this tiny detail, or people are, you know what I mean? Like we got to kind of adjust this to what the current situation is.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, one of the things that I'm excited about season 5, the writers all being back in a physical room together, and I just think that things are going to be, because they're really only central to the Hawkins this season, even though it's, upside down and all that. And so I think with them just being focused on, like, geographically speaking, one area, I think is going to be um, much better, um, for the show. But one thing I wanted to talk about real quick before we go, Jasmine, is about one of the set picks of the Duffers at the tunnel set. And we know that they've already said like there were things from season two that um they really wanted to do in season two, but they didn't have time. So they're bringing it back in season five, and obviously evidently the tunnels is part of
The
that.
tunnel system is
Yeah, the
back.
tunnel
Yeah.
system, and that is one part of season two that I've never really understood, and I'm rewatching, doing my annual um Stranger Things rewatch, and I'm on season two right now. And I still don't really understand the whole tunnel thing, because really that's really the only part of the Upside Down we were really in. Like physically, I know like Will, with the visions and stuff, but like physically, that was the only um real area that we spent in the Upside Down. And so I really am looking forward to maybe get some clarity on the tunnel system in season five. Just to see kind of like, you know, what the dealio is with that.
Yeah, me too. Like when I saw that picture, it's one of them, looking at the laptop. I was really excited too because I think season one is my favorite season, followed by season two. So I am also really excited. And I think that's going to tie into, what is it about Will, and also kind of revealing stuff to help, Elle defeat Vecna in the end. Like I really think it's all part and parcel of the same thing, because like you said, we don't really get clarity on what the heck was up with that. We know there's some kind of connection between Will and the vines and the mind flayer, and we know there's some kind of connection to Elle, but it's not really clear. And I feel really strongly that has to tie in some way to when we see Vecna go into his mindscape in season four and how he's able to connect to people's memories and stuff. I feel like that has to be all connected somehow. I don't know how it's connected, but I feel like there's got to be, it's all got to interlace somehow, for them to be coming back to that. I mean, it's because we never really get clarity, and I agree. I think it's all got to come back together. I think that there's got to be, there's something there. It was never, that stuff was never finished. So I definitely agree, that it's got to come back around, in season five.
Yeah, and the fact too, like, and this is not only just season two, but it's in season three as well, and will obviously be in season five. But it's like there's something about around the farm areas that um this stuff really seems to happen. Like season three, when Hopper and Joyce are looking out the properties that the Russians purchased in Hawkins, like they're all farms, and they go to that Hess Farms, and that's where we get first, well, not first time, but um with Alexei and the other scientists are down there doing stuff. And I just go like, what is it about the farms specifically that um this, I mean, obviously the Russians knew like the farmland, or the areas of the farms were fertile ground for this stuff. Um, and I don't know, it's just something I'd be very interested to see how it plays out, in season five.
Yeah, because I feel like you and I are kind of saying the same thing, that it has to all be interconnected somehow. And I think it's a good way for them to do it, like whether this was planned out from the beginning or not, weaving the farms, the tunnels, the vines, the upside down, like weaving all that together makes a lot of sense, because I think whatever the reveal is going to be here, they got to tie it back in some way for it to really make sense. And I think because we've kind of had these things where there's something going on but we're not quite sure what it is. I think that's a great way to kind of tie it all together, especially since a lot of this farm property would now be abandoned as people evacuated. I think there's fertile ground, so to speak, for them to kind of like revisit this stuff and kind of explain how it all connects. Um, and so speaking of tunnels, there's a couple other things I wanted to kind of touch on before we go. This is something you and I talked about like off camera. But in one of the behind the scenes pics, we get a transportation map of Hawkins, and it's got like Department of Transportation on it. And you and I both commented on the fact that Hawkins is not big enough to have a Department of Transportation. Also, this place has roads, and that's about it. There's no other transport as far as we know, apart from like an interstate bus. So you and I both comment on this, wondering if is this an Easter egg of some kind? Is this like a fake map? Or do the Duffer Brothers not realize that a town that small would not have its own Department of Transportation? Like, interested to see if we get an answer to that, or if this is something we barely even like. It's in like the background of a shot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff we're saying, like I think about that photo we got of, hey, this comet is coming, repent. That's on the dashboard of someone's car. Like this stuff could be prominent, or it could literally go by in the background, and we could not even. It could be the
Notice
kind
it.
of yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to pause it to like there's that old joke about when the Harry Potter movies came out. There was like the art department spent weeks and months on these flyers for the Quidditch World Cup that can be briefly seen if you pause it in one scene. And they spent so much time on these things. They had text, they had everything, and they're in one quick scene where people are holding them. Um, so sometimes the art department works really hard and it winds up being just in the background of a shot. I do like that with some of these behind the scenes pics, we are getting kind of a bigger focus on what the things the crew creates. I do
Hmm.
really like that because it's something we don't normally get to see. When something works and looks beautiful, you don't really think about necessarily the work that goes into it. Um, so I'm really excited to see that. I'm also excited to see who a lot of the stuff belongs to, because like the photo of the warehouse with the bikes, or like even some of the bedroom photos we're getting, or it looks like someone's bedroom. We've seen different bedrooms multiple times. The stuff looks juvenile to the point where I'm like, is this Holly's? Is this Erica's? Are these flashbacks? We know Erica's going to be part of the main cast, but you and I have also talked about how we think Holly might play a bigger role. Because again, that's also kind of a little bit of a breadcrumb there. There's a little bit of Easter egg where we see Holly in season one. She interacting with Will when he's in the upside down, like with the lights. We see. I don't remember if we have anything in season two, but I know in season three, like she points out to her parents the trees are moving. Like she points to the snow. Like she's clearly aware. Like she has awareness of what's going on.
Yeah. It's like
Um,
she's the one that's kind of able to see the things that are unseen, you know?
yes, yes,
Like
and
in that movie Poltergeist or whatever I think it
yes,
is.
yes. Oh, I wonder if that's an homage. I wonder if that's what that's supposed to be. Like if that's what they're supposed to be like. She sees things other people don't. If that's supposed to be like kind of like a nudge, nudge. I wonder if that's what that is. Huh. Huh. Yeah, could be. Huh. But yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Um, where I had a point. Where was I going? Yeah, my point is more like I wonder if Holly's superpower is just being open. Like we talked about how like Mike and Nancy can get like tunnel vision and be very oblivious. Karen and Ted obviously are. Like obliviousness seems and like tunnel vision seems to be a Wheeler family trait. And like I wonder if like is that going to be the reveal that like Holly's kind of superpower here is that she's not like that she's like not oblivious, does not get tunnel vision, she's an aware, observant kid, and that separates her from the rest of the family. Like I'm kind of expecting, not maybe not expecting the wrong word, but like I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of scene where like Holly just drops something in a conversation, everybody looks at her and goes, "Oh, like you've been aware this whole time," and she's like, "Well, yeah." Or like Will clocks something and realizes that she knows what's up, or L clocks something and what she's saying, or the way she's like paying attention, and everyone's like, and they're like, you didn't realize your sister was observing everything that was going on. Like that would be really funny to me, honestly. If Holly's known the whole time what's going down, that would be so funny to me. Like it's just the mid-season reveal. Holly knew the whole time, didn't say anything, minded her business. Like I would honestly love that.
I know. It's like, I feel like a good way to close this episode out would be to say of all the theories that fans of the show have come up with or will come up with, some of them good, some of them not so good, as we just, did a whole episode on that, which you can listen to anywhere you get your podcast, um, is um, the theory that Holly Wheeler is not Ted Wheeler's biological daughter, and I'll leave that there.
I mean, if that's true, I don't
Because
think Mike and Nancy are either. You know that joke
I
Karen
know.
makes?
Well,
Switch at the
well,
hospital? Maybe they all were.
well, I don't know. I mean, Mike looks like Ted,
Yeah,
but Nancy,
yeah,
Nancy looks like Karen,
yeah,
but Holly is blonde and has like blue eyes. Like she does
yeah.
not.
Although to be fair, so did I when I was a kid. So did I. Like I still
Yeah,
do, but the rest of my family doesn't. To be fair. Like she's young enough that like I looked that way too when I was her age. And then I still look that way, but the rest of my family, like their hair darkened, their eyes changed, and mine never did. So it does happen. It does happen where you look that way as a kid and some people outgrow it and some people don't. So in Holly's defense, that happened to my family. So could just be that, could just be
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Alrighty.
yeah. Whew. This
Woo.
was a good season 5 season 5 episode where we
Yeah.
spent an hour and a
We didn't
half
talk
talking
about
about season 4.
4.
One part of season 4
One
too.
part.
Like
One part.
one
Yeah.
part of a part, really. One part of
Really.
a part. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening.
All right, and we'll see you next time, folks.
And that's our show. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends. Our theme music is provided by Neon Knights, and our sound editing is provided by Ashton Cooper. Thank you for listening to this episode of Ham Radio, a Stranger Things podcast. Please join us next time, same dial, same time.
Over and out.